Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Should Have Recorded That with Phil and hello. If you're listening to us, you'll have noticed that Adam did not say anything because he's suffering from a case of pharyngitis. I'm not gonna say it right. I'm not gonna say it right. But what he's suffering from makes his throat hurt a lot to speak, so he's not gonna be speaking at all during this podcast. But we still want you here, especially for our first podcast of 2021. This is a new season, and so we're glad to be here with you, and trying to figure out this world together. And so, I'm gonna introduce our guest co-host, Eric. Hello, Eric.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing well.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're glad to have you here, and you're gonna be you're gonna stand in for Adam, our surrogate Adam today.
Let's see if I can measure up.
I'm sure you can okay with that. So before I go on, so if you would like to reach out to us, please reach out to us on Instagram and on Facebook by um the name WSRTwPA, and you can find us on YouTube by the name of our podcast. We should have recorded that. So today is New Year, and there is a lot has already happened
Yes.
in this year. I mean, people was like, I'm so looking forward to 2020 being over, and
We got like 5 good days out of it, you know? You know. Here's to 2022.
right, already looking forward to the next year. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, don't know. I was when everything happened on last Wednesday, I said, I posted, man, I don't know what to say, but I have so many thoughts.
Yeah. I definitely felt the same way because I knew it was happening. I was working, and so I was listening to a live stream, and then everything just started going down, and I had to stop working because I couldn't understand what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I usually have a voice lesson on Wednesday, and so we were, in a voice lesson, and of course, this one is like 3 p.m. Eastern time. So this was like during the middle, like when everything is going on, and
Hmm.
we don't know what's going on because we're not watching, we're not on the Facebook or watching TV, and then I started seeing little things on Facebook, and I'm like, is this some type of movie that's coming out? What's going
Oh,
And Adam just said, let's just say this is December 42nd, 2022.
yes, we're still in 2020. If we just keep that mindset, it'll be great.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, we really haven't, I haven't even outlined this episode. And so we're just gonna kind of be reforming the whole thing. But I don't know, like Eric, you kind of shared kind of like your initial reaction, but like what, as we've kind of had a week, a little bit to process that, because we're like a week and a few days after everything happened. What have you been thinking about?
I've been thinking about a lot. I've been thinking about what this means for our country, and what this means for the people, not just who were there at the Capitol, on the senators and the representatives that are there to do their job, but also what this means for the people who were taking part in the riots and breaking into the Capitol, and what that means for them going forward. Because I I like to think of the positive part of people, and like they weren't. I'm sure that some of them weren't planning to take it that far, but with mom mentality and just all the emotions that were there, and people just got carried away. I'm assuming some people just got swept up in it and just were going based off of pure emotion. So I don't know what that means for them either. If that means they're going to have to really reevaluate maybe their position on things, or if they're now just going to have to double down and be like, yep, that was me. That's what I wanted and intended to do. And we're going to go from there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thought. Yeah, like I mean, is you have to be able to say I was wrong. Like you know, I mean, yeah, I was wrong, and so yeah, and I also think I'm thinking of all the we have several politicians from state legislators that are having to they lost their offices and other
Hmm.
because of their participation. And I think, like you said, I wonder if they're regretting the decision or if they're just saying that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, that was another big thought, was all the people that all of our legislators that were really like behind Trump 100%, behind everything that he was saying, not showing quote quote any defecting from the party. I know some of them have already quote sided with Democrats and voted to impeach him in the House of Representatives. But I'm really curious as to how they're going to go forward with everything that they've said before
Yeah.
to now.
hmm Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling like, um, you know, I watched that Wednesday night after when they reconvened, and I was watching Liz Graham talk, and I could tell he was very emotional as he was expressing himself. But I really was like, I wish you saw this coming. Like a lot of people saw this type of behavior coming, and that you said something for now because it's really
Yeah.
it's I'm gonna say this now. It really was a circular argument. Like Trump kept saying
Hmm.
it's not gonna be a fair election, and then just to see other people saying, "Well, we got to respond because our constituents believe it wasn't a fair election." And actually, you're the ones who told them it wasn't fair, and so that's the reason why they think it's not fair. And so now you're saying, "Oh, they think it's not fair, so now we got to do something."
Right, right. It's like, who else is to blame other than you at this point? Because you put that seed of doubt in their head before the election even happened. I'm sure if everyone would have just shut down that argument of no, it's going to be a fair election, you know, flat out before anything happened, I'm sure we wouldn't have seen quite as many people there and quite the reaction that we had, if we had just shut that down beforehand.
Yeah, or even just said, with I forget the gentleman. I think his first name was Chris. Who led the team to make sure that we had secure elections? He said we had secure elections. So he was. I mean, he was watching everything go on, and to believe him. Okay, and so the person who
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. Believe him, believe all of the judges and the third party investigators, and just believe everyone who has done the investigation already into any voter fraud that has happened, and be like, okay, so we might have thought beforehand there was some fraud going on, but all of these people have investigated it to their fullest extent, found no fraud. Okay, great, there was no fraud.
Right, right, right. And I, um, I was listening to actually a podcast, just trying to, even hear maybe like even a Christian kind of response. Because as a Christian, I'm like, how does the church respond to this? And I was listening to these podcasts, and I don't think they were necessarily speaking as pastors. And as you know, as people, as I would say, just as pastors, but even hearing some of them kind of equate the protests in the summer during last summer to what we were seeing on last Wednesday, and I'm just like, I don't think that you can't equate those two. You
You really can't. And I got into some Facebook discussions about that because I have friends on all sides, and I was out there this summer every once in a while protesting, lending my support wherever I could for the summer ones. And yeah, you really can't make that comparison between what was happening during the summer, the protests and the riots about years, generations, centuries of oppression and brutality, and that you can't compare that to being a sore loser because you didn't like the outcome of an election.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just it really kind of it really just hurts hurts my heart to hear us talk. And even just to even imagine, when you think about 100 people um, being arrested during the summer and the way they were treated for Trump to go do the photo op, in comparison to people, it people storming the Capitol. Like, I mean, like, they were able to get inside the Capitol building. And I was telling someone, it's not so much that I was surprised as much as I was angry. Um, that, like I said, the people over the summer were protesting the death of unarmed men, whether they're criminal or not. I'm not gonna say all these
Mhm.
live perfect lives or all these people live perfect lives, but whether they were a criminal or not, they did not deserve to die in the street. And and it just really made me angry to see that these people were able to get inside the Capitol building, and their intent was clear. Their intent was clear to stop the certification of this election.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Yeah, when I saw that I was listening to news reporters that were inside the Capitol, and when they came out and said there are now protesters and rioters in the Capitol, I was baffled because of all places in our entire nation, I feel like the Capitol building should be one of the most secure. And it felt like a group of people could just walk in.
yeah,
And that to me was completely, you know, baffling.
yeah. I mean, and they like not just walking, but they were breaking windows
Mm-hmm.
and threatening violence. I mean, and just I mean, people died. Um, people died, and I think, and I guess like, what do you? Let's I guess to kind of shift gears, like, what do you? I mean, because we've been talking about accountability, right? Like, we can't really move past this without accountability. I mean, so like, what do like? Do you all have thoughts on what that accountability should be?
I fully think that all of the legislators, all of the newscasters, everyone who, before and during the election and after the election results came out, that were perpetuating it's a scam, voter fraud, they were stole, like all of those lies, that blatant misinformation, need to come out with saying, yes, we were wrong. This, like, I would like to see them do more than that, but at the very minimum, say that yes, we acknowledge the fact that we were spreading misinformation. That, to me, would be step number one. And step number two, yes, I think Trump needs to be removed from office. It's not going to happen because he has 5 days left, but I think that there needs to be the Senate trial needs to happen. They need to convict him and bar him from passing legislation, barring him from being able to hold office again.
Yeah, and Adam is saying the same things here that since Pence won't remove Trump, via the 25th Amendment, and Trump does be convicted by the Senate of impeachment, and needs to be convicted by the Senate, that he has been impeached by the House, and that's the only way we'll hold him accountable. And yeah, I think that's true. I mean, and not whether he changes or not. Like, I think for the next person who would want to try this, for the next person who would think that it's okay, I think that is something that has to happen. I was listening to a program, and they were saying that I think it's the 14th Amendment, which is maybe what Eric is referring to, happened after the Civil War, where they created this amendment with people who were part of the Civil War, who decided to separate from the United States, said those people cannot hold office. And it's just kind of ironic, or maybe even not so much ironic, but just the way, the mirror of that, something happening in the 1800s coming back here in the 21st century. It's just a crazy thing about, yeah. So I mean, maybe I don't know what one of my thoughts. I said this after the election. Like, at the time we saw it like 71 million. Now we know it's 74, and about 80, 82 million, I think, voted for Biden. That's still, it's still not an overwhelming majority voted for Joe Biden. Um, my question, or one of my thoughts, is how do we come together as a country? How do we? What do we do for us to change?
Yeah, that's the biggest question that I've had for, you know, since the election and before the election too. It's like seeing the divides that have happened and, not just amongst the parties, but, families and friends and people who used to be so close are now torn apart because of, their support behind one political party or the other. And, you know, how do we go about rectifying that? How do we go about repairing that, or can it be repaired? Is another big question. Are the divides so far and so deep now that it's become unrepairable without some big overhaul?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I would want to um, maybe think about what did it look like during the Civil War. How do we recover from that, which was something far more devastating. But I think maybe we could find some lessons there. But and I really think, like I said, I think the church has a role to play in this. I don't know. I mean, do you don't? If you don't mind me asking, are you a Christian? I don't know if we've ever had that conversation.
Uh, so I was raised Christian. I was raised Methodist, very heavily involved in the church, both locally in my city, and then in my district and region. And went to international conferences for the church. In college, the first time I went, because I've gone to college twice now. The first time I was in college, I felt really pushed away from the church. So I separated from the official organization of religion and church, but I've kept a lot of the values that I learned because, Christianity is a great tool for a moral compass, I think. So I've kept a lot of those values that I learned, and that's kind of how I live my life. So I wouldn't say I'm really religious per se, but I have a lot of those core morals that I still believe in.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd be those that listen to us talk. Me and Adam have shared kind of our own like journeys from, and maybe even some ways back to our roots, but definitely looking at how we were raised in the church. So I definitely understand that. And so I mean, and I think like like that is even like evangelical and American Christianity needs to rethink its stuff. And I think Adam shared an article about that in the light of everything that has happened. And I think we have to, the church needs to have a voice that is apart from, um, this person, politician, or that politician is the answer. Like Jesus is the answer. We all need Jesus, and like you said, those most morals of loving your neighbor as yourself, or maybe even loving loving your neighbor as Christ loved you. Well, Christ died. He gave up. He gave up himself. He did not seek his own, but he gave up for others.
Hmm.
Yeah. Adam is saying evangelical Christians are culpable not for Trump but for the environment. And let's see here. Yeah, yeah, I think like you said, yeah, we I, this the if we were more so centered on who, like more so centered on being Christians versus being conservative, being lovers of people. can't you can't see the video. Adam is like, give me the thumbs up. If we were more centered on being Christ followers and lovers, understanding the way that Christ has loved us and loving others in that way, yes, we would be in a different place. We would be in a much better place. Be in a much better place.
Hmm. I definitely agree with that.
So I don't know, what do you, Eric, do you have anything that you want to share? Maybe a perspective on this that you want to express, or
It's this whole thing, and like I can kind of relate it to the church's role and really religion's role in this whole thing because as someone who's not particularly religious, when I think of the big force behind Trump, the Trump supporters, I do tend to think of more of the very conservative Christians, the evangelicals, and I know that's a very broad stroke. That of evangelicals are all supporting Trump and all very conservative and all, everything that are the negative stereotypes of what Christians are, because that's how a lot of the outsiders view people who are a part of Christianity in the church. And I think now is actually a great opportunity for the church and Christians to be like, that's not all we are. That's a very small part of this grand umbrella term of Christianity and Christians. But now is a great time to really step forward and start showing non-religious people what it really means to be a Christian, and show them the core values, and you know not say that, oh, if you're gonna, you should become a Christian because this is what we are, but like show them this is what we believe in, because we love each other, we want to be more Christ-like. We want everything that is good and wholesome to prevail, and not the we are behind Trump because we are type thing.
yeah. And Adam says, and there are Christians who never supported Trump, and there are believers who defy the stereotypes. And yes, I definitely agree with that. I definitely, I know that I mean, when everything, we were both at, I just came to Delta State in 2017. We would have conversations um, about that. And so, yeah, but I agree with you, Eric. I mean, um, this is definitely our opportunity. Like this is the darkness that we can, not be the light, but it show people to the light. Like the church showed people
Hmm.
to Christ, who is the light, and show them that even in this dark time, he's there. The thing I was doing, I was recording a performance before we sat down to have this conversation, and the song that we were working on is called "There Is Peace in Christ," and the last line of the chorus of that song says, "When there's no peace on earth, when there's no peace anywhere else, there is peace in Christ, and so yeah, like you said, I think this is a great time for us to demonstrate that. If you will. Yeah. So um, I don't. I mean, does it? I don't know if anybody else. Adam, do you have any thoughts or think there's something something we need to touch on? You say-
Your episodes are so short when he can't talk.
okay, you know, I think there are always this is kind of a moment. I think there are always those people where like there's the person who plays off the energy of the other person. So like in most like duos, there's a got a person like just leveling the energy of the other person, and I'm fine with playing that role. I'm okay with just like yeah, I'm fine with it.
Uh,
Your presence is enjoyed. Your presence is enjoyed. So, Eric, why don't we do this? So, we did our current events. Maybe we can end by talking about something we've learned. If maybe if there's something you've learned in over the past year or the past what day is this? 15 days of 2020. Which
um, let's see here. Something that I've definitely learned, and I'm still learning this, but is to be more open. And that's open in the general sense of be open to new opportunities, be open to new connections, be open to criticism and feedback that you get, about how to better yourself, and you know, be open to just life. When I walked around for so many years in my youth, very closed off to those around me, to different opportunities that were just laying there waiting for me to go and pick them up. But I, for some reason or another, didn't go out and do it. So that's last year, and this year I'm going to continue to just really try and let myself be more open to everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great thought. I mean, I think the thing that I've learned would go with that. Like I've in past years or times, I could feel I could sense the fear that I had with an opportunity or something I was pursuing that really crippled me, but I never really named it. um I was always there and it would stop me, but I never really named it. And so like last year, I think during the pandemic, just I just like I was having anxiety about teaching, in this remote situation where I'm a new teacher, and I couldn't really name it at first, and then I started naming it, and then I could start processing it and start dealing with it. And so like yeah, I think for me going into 2021, just realizing the fear, naming it, and then kind of working to conquer those things. Let's see, what do you say here, Adam? I've affirmed that the hypocrisy of someone you disagree with does not make them wrong. This is this is the logical fallacy known as, how do you say that? I don't know. I'm not gonna try to say to quote want to beism. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean what about it. This is what about is okay. I don't. What about it? It's, we're trying. We're trying. We're trying. We're trying. Let me see. Okay. Whenever you can talk, you can help us out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I made a big deal out of that. I I think I mean, that did make me think of something just really quick before we end. I think there was we were talking about this in church, in Sunday school. There's a difference between truth and opinion, and like being able to have a conversation where we can share different opinions, whether we disagree with them or not, and be okay with that. Um, and versus like we do need, there are some things that we have to agree on as facts and that are truth. And so, yeah. So, I want. Is that what you're kind of talking about? Yes, something like that. We'll next episode we'll start with that. Set it up. Eric, do you
If
have?
he can talk.
He can talk. Hopefully, he can talk. Hopefully, he can talk. Eric, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think that pretty much does it for me.
All right. Well, listeners, dear listeners, uh, we'll see you next time.